Just before we get started with this week's episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter, I wanted to say a huge thank you to those of you who've supported this project and stuck around and kept going and helped to keep it going on, because this is episode number 300. I've been thinking literally for years that if I ever got this far, I would have to make some kind of reference to the movie 300. So, to borrow a line from King Leonidas, this is Globetrotter. Roll that intro. Hello there, I'm Rafael Furia, back at it again for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. This week, I wanted to jump into the topic of comparing and contrasting digital nomad life with living abroad as an expat, the whole expat life. And I'm just going to jump into saying that I think there is a huge issue with the digital nomad lifestyle. And I do have many friends who are digital nomads, and they know that I have these harsh opinions, and I'm not coming for anybody. I'm not having any critical opinions about a person's life choices. This episode is solely my opinions on why it's not right for me. And in a recent episode, some of you may remember that I did say that I had thought very seriously about doing the digital nomad life, and part of 2020, that was my idea for at least, not just part, but a good portion of 2020. But in the end, of course, the events of 2020 held me back from that. But there are other reasons why I have come to realize that the digital nomad lifestyle is not right for me. And one of the biggest reasons is I think that what is sold of the digital nomad life online, especially on YouTube and Instagram, I'll admit I have a difficult time consuming that type of content. And the biggest reason why is also part of the reason why that I'm also not interested in that lifestyle, which is that I think a lot of it is an impossible fantasy that is not based in reality and doesn't have any real substance behind it. Yes, can you live an amazing, glamorous life around the world, seeing beautiful things with beautiful places and beautiful people? Of course. But of course, you can do this in your home as well. You just have to find what are the unique things that make it special. But even beyond that, I'm still somebody who does think of the expat lifestyle as a wonderful choice for people who are looking for something new and something different, something exotic, for lack of a better word. But one of the things that I would say is also really one of the falsities, the falsehoods that's kind of sold about not expat, but digital nomad lifestyle. The digital nomad lifestyle is rather that you are going to have this wonderful community. You're going to meet people around you, and you're going to have all these great connections. And yes, is that possible? Definitely. I'm not going to say that it's not possible. What I'm going to say is that I think there's something to be said for investing yourself into where you are for the long term, because at the end of the day, when you get down to your last days on this plane of existence, this planet, whatever you're going to call it, whatever you believe in, it doesn't matter. Whenever it is that you're getting close to the end and you're looking back on things, I think, I've never done this before, as far as I know. I'm not going to make arguments about reincarnation or lack thereof or anything like that. But what I'm going to say is, as somebody who is in their 30s, is that my inkling is that I think I'm going to look back on life and say, what did I invest myself into? What did I do? And did I waste time along the way? Did I build something that I am proud of behind me? And for some people, having random experiences in random places may be part of that. And one of my biggest concerns would be is if it would have been meaningful. Would it have felt empty at the end of the day? These interactions that you may have with wonderful people and become friends with, are these going to be the people that you are able to surround yourself with? And of course, in your life, people are going to come and go. Like in the acting world, people have the saying about life is like a play, and every actor has their entrance and exit. And my perspective is, as somebody who's been abroad for more than 14 years, going on 15 years now, that the ability to be able to invest yourself into a place and into relationships around you, there's something that you can't replicate there, because you may have your ability to go down the street and just simply go to your bakery to get your croissant that you know you can rely on at the end of the day. There's something very nice about being able to run on autopilot sometimes so that you are able to accomplish other things. Whereas if you're moving from one place to another, you're going to have to look for place after place after place, getting used to a new city, a new location, new people, new language, new this, new that. And I'm not arguing against that because I think there is something very beautiful about being able to get in contact with new cultures. But if you're only going to be in a place for a week, a month, a couple of months, how really integrated can you even possibly become? Just spending a short amount of time there, you're barely scratching the surface, even if you are fluent in the language. And some of my friends, like I said, are digital nomads, and they know that I have these harsh opinions. And I'm not criticizing their life choices and their way of being. And I'm not saying that it's wrong what they're doing. And maybe it's the right choice for them. Again, it's just not the right choice for me. In my life, I've come to realize that I think it's important to be able to have community and to be able to have something solid as a foundation that you can call your home. And as a digital nomad, your community is going to be very transient. They're going to be here. They're going to be there. Maybe you're never going to see each other again. And I am at a point in my life also where I'm not opposed to investing in new friendships and relationships. And if I am investing myself into those new friendships and relationships, I don't want it to be empty. I think it's wonderful if your friendships can be with people who really mean something and add something to your life, and you can add to theirs, and that you can come together and share wonderful moments together. But is that to say that you can't do this with people who are moving all around and this and that? No, you can definitely have these things. But with a person that you've maybe known for a few days or a few weeks, is it going to be as deep and as meaningful as somebody maybe who you've known for a longer period of time? You have a history together. You have moments shared with each other, and you're not just getting to know somebody for the first time. You're not just going through your life story for the first time, having to repeat it over and over and over and over again. You've had already some section of your life together that you know how the other one runs, and you know if you can rely on them or how well you can rely on them, and you may never even have to rely on them. But that to me is what friendship is partially about, is being able to have those types of connections with people. But I do think there's another aspect that's also worth talking about. And that is when a lot of people talk about the digital nomad lifestyle and they're really trying to sell hard on it, a very common kind of idea that I hear kind of shared, and I've heard it both online and in the real world, is that, throughout human history, we were nomadic for so long, and so many people were this and that, and it's a natural way of life, and la 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 la. But the thing is, the digital nomad lifestyle, there is nothing natural about it. Traveling from place to place, week to week, from one part of the world to the next part of the world, I would hardly argue that that is anywhere near what our ancestors would have gone through. And the nomadic lifestyle was not because they were looking for these glamorous, wonderful moments. It was a necessity that maybe in the winter months that the place where you were was not going to be hospitable to life and you needed to go someplace warmer. Or maybe every few years, the ground underneath you was not going to be enough to sustain you, and you had to bring your herds to a different pasture. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you think about it also, the majority of humanity has left that lifestyle behind. And I'm not saying that one lifestyle is better or worse or this or that. And I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't do. But what I'm saying is that I think there's a reason why the majority of our ancestors did leave the nomadic lifestyle behind. But that's not to say that there aren't people who are still nomadic, truly nomadic in the proper sense of the word. I mean, even if you look at, say, Mongolia, maybe 50 to 60%, it could even be 40%. I forget the number off the top of my head. This percentage of their population are living a nomadic lifestyle, and the rest of their population are living in the main city of the country. So it gives a very wide dispersal rate for the population. It's like, 1.8 people for every kilometer, something like this roughly. But that's not important. But what I'm saying is that it's an extreme minority, the amount of people who are still actually living a proper nomadic lifestyle. Again, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing great. There's nothing this and nothing that. You have to live the lifestyle that's right for you at the end of the day. But comparing the digital nomad's lifestyle to a nomadic lifestyle, properly nomadic lifestyle, I wouldn't say that's necessarily such a fair comparison. Because at the end of the day, what is it that you need in life? What is it that you actually need? I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about physical health and your well-being, your ability to support yourself. And maybe, do you want a family? Do you not want a family? As a single person, I think there are definitely some aspects of the digital nomad lifestyle that they lend themselves really well to it. But at the same time, traveling as somebody on their own, I mean, there's a lot of loneliness that a person can experience. And not saying that everybody does, but I would be shocked if there was not a digital nomad, a solo digital nomad, that didn't experience some type of loneliness or even possibly depression, at least at some point throughout their nomad experience. But again, I'm not saying that it's right or that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's not right for me. But as an expat, you do have the ability to, well, depending on your legal status, of course, and taking that as a caveat, you will have the ability to call a place your home, to settle, to make a life for yourself, to create a community around yourself, or to become a part of a community and to be an active member of that. And having a community is not necessarily just being part of a group of people. Having a community is also being present with those people within a certain distance from you. At least I would make that argument. And that's another factor also, is not just community, investments in people, but investments into your life. Moving from place to place, whether you're going with a backpack or you're going with a house of boxes, there are expenses involved with that. And whether you have to pay for an Airbnb or whatever it may be, maybe if you're in Southeast Asia or certain parts of the world, of course, you'd be able to save on certain costs. However, there is something to be said, in my personal opinion, on living in a place that is cost effective, where you are able to lower your cost of living to the point where you are able to live comfortably and or be able to start putting money on the side. I think that is a very important factor in life, to be able to make sure that you are not just going to be out in the cold, but also, again, to make sure that you have something behind you, to make sure that you are building in life. And when you are not physically tied to a location, yeah, maybe if you're a very extremely high earner, that your location and moving from place to place is not going to affect your final outcome at the end of the month or end of the year when it comes to your earnings. However, I'm talking about the average person here. There are going to be a lot of people whose wallets will be hit in a certain type of way. And even though I am somebody who has moved from country to country and has been abroad for more than 14 years, that is one of my regrets, is that I do see sometimes is that if I had maybe stayed in one location, I could have built myself up in a certain way through work and through experience, that maybe home ownership would be a more likely reality. Although for people in my age bracket and younger, of course, due to the current climate of the world, home ownership is not as realistic as it once was for many people. But that is, I think, a very important factor to consider, is what are going to be things. I'm not necessarily somebody who also would argue that physical things are important in life, but there's a value in certain things that you can build up with. And if you can invest into certain things in your life, then having that at a later stage in life to maybe turn a profit could be very valuable to have. But again, it's not to say even that living a digital nomad lifestyle that you couldn't do these things. However, I would say for the average person, it puts a few extra hurdles in front that maybe instead of spending money on being at this beachfront location in this place and then taking the planes to here and there and the other, having to the expense of just plane tickets alone is absurd in this world. I mean, they've just been getting more and more expensive. I mean, granted, okay, in Europe, you can still fly for relatively low cost, but it's not as low cost as it once was. I mean, some flights being like 10 euros, but okay, maybe you can still find the occasional cheap flight, and very likely cheaper than what you might find for the average flight in the States. But that's going in a different direction. Flying and transport and the time that you have to spend from place to place, time is going to be something that you'll never get back. So having to spend and waste your time on transportation, I might argue that's definitely a tough point. Because also, even throughout your daily life, if you are somebody who is able to live a digital nomad lifestyle, you're also the same type of person who can work remotely from home. And if you are able to do that, I mean, I'm generalizing here. Maybe there are going to be part-time digital nomads who can only work for part of the year or partially from outside of the office, whatever it may be. But let's say if you're full-time remote, what are you spending your day doing in your work? Where are you able to spend your time? Are you having to set up your office and break it down at the end of the day in a hotel room or in an Airbnb or at a cafe and having to put your screen up, put your screen down? Okay, if you're working from a laptop, that's not that big of a deal. But having a space that is molded to you rather than you having to mold to the space, I think saves a lot of time. That you can reach your hand in one direction and you know your pens are here. For example, pen right here. I don't have to reach all that far. I know that I have a lamp right here if I need it. I have my desk space set up in the way that makes it very convenient for me, that I know if I need something, I don't even have to look for it. If I need a cloth for my glasses, I have it right here. And I think there are micro moments that do add up as time goes on. And I realize this may sound very, very silly, but when you are trying to optimize your lifestyle and optimize what it is that you're doing and how you can get through the day and how you can most efficiently get through your work in the best way possible to have the best outcome, there are these micro adjustments that will make a big difference to you. But of course, there are other ways to simplify your workspace and to have things work for you. And I'm not going to say that having a laptop, working from a laptop is the best way of going about things, but it is one way of going about things. And is it potentially lonely to be working from home day in and day out? Of course. Like, it's the same problem that an individual who's a digital nomad might have if they're working from Airbnbs randomly or just random cafes where they don't have connections with people around them. Even if they're actively making connections with people, there's still going to be, I would say, something missing. And I've gone through that even as an expat. So that's going to be something where it's going to depend on you as an individual and your ability to socialize and make new friends with new people, because it's going to work differently for different people. I'm very much generalizing about what I'm talking about here. I keep on repeating myself that these are really the reasons why it's not right for me. I'm not saying it's not right for everybody, and I'm not saying that not everybody shouldn't do it, but I would also say that even the expat lifestyle, and I've said it many, many, many times on Not Your Average Globetrotter, it's not right for everybody and it's not appropriate for everybody. Are there wonderful things, though, to be experienced by being able to travel? Absolutely. Are there new things and new people and new places and new experiences that you can have? Without a doubt. I do think, though, that if you are not going to be truly investing yourself into a place, that you'll only ever reach a certain level of understanding of it, that you're never going to truly integrate, especially not as a digital nomad. You'll hit a certain level that maybe you have your friends and those people that you go see often when you go back to X, Y, or Z location, but there's always going to be that barrier that you will never get past. And also, to be completely fair, as an expat as well, there are going to be limitations to your ability to integrate fully into a location. As a new person in a new country, that's just, I would argue, a fact of life. So do both at the end of their days have their drawbacks? Absolutely. I'm not going to pretend like they don't. But for me personally, I think there are more drawbacks to the digital nomad lifestyle that aren't congruent to what I know that I need for myself in my life. And I know there are many other people who do feel similarly to how I do. And this video is really for those of you who may be looking to have something more solid in life, that are looking to have a built-up foundation, and that you don't necessarily need to have glorious, glamorous travel, that you can be happy in one place in life. So for those of you who may be the type that do need to have a change of scenery, then that could be actually something that could be great for you. But what I've said also in many episodes is that you have to remember that if you are going to a place for a positive reason about what that place has to offer and not the negative of the reason why you are leaving a place, there's going to be that aspect of always chasing the thing that's missing. And if you have that thing that's missing that you think is external, very often it's internal. Wherever you go, you will always take yourself with you. Again, I've repeated that many times. And I think especially as a digital nomad, that's even more true. And there are many people who do go into the digital nomad lifestyle looking to escape from something. And they end up finding that there is not that thing that they were looking for in that place over there, because they still have the same problems that they were dealing with. And I'm not saying that all digital nomads have that, or that that's the reason why all digital nomads will experience certain things in life. But what I'm saying is that I think it's very important to understand what is inside before you start looking for things that are outside. But I'm going to leave that off at this part of the episode. I have plenty more that I could go into, but maybe I'll leave that for another day. But of course, if you agree or disagree with me, or maybe partially agree, whatever it is, feel free to leave that down in the comment section below. It's always wonderful to hear what you guys have to say. And even if you disagree with me, I'm not saying I'm right about everything. I'm saying maybe I'm right about what's right for me, but I'm not going to say that what I'm having to say about certain subjects is the final rule of the law, and that this is what is, and what is. No, you have to figure out what's right for you in life. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out this episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter, and an even bigger thank you to those of you who help support this project in the various possible ways through the monthly support on Patreon, rafaeldefuria.com/Patreon, patreon.com/rafaeldefuria, as well as the one-time donations such as the thanks button here on YouTube. All of these really do help the project to be able to keep on going. And of course, also on the topic of what helps, a huge thank you to those of you who do leave the comments down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. It's always not just wonderful for my own curiosity, what other people have to say, but also with YouTube and the way that things work here, as well as with the likes, shares, all of that helps. Thank you all so much for taking part in this project in all the different ways possible. Of course, I'm Rafael de Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I will see you all next time. Later.